back to the grind, and it feels real good to be back with my bees. A little bit of reprieve, time well spent. So this morning, first thing out, we are working through one of the nuke yards. Carrie's gone through and just about checked all the hives that were needing queen check for mating nukes. We're pulling out all the failures. We're not spending any more time on them, culling those out. Also throughout the apiary, as we make our rounds, we're continuing to cull out hives that are just maybe falling back a little bit, failing, so we pull them out, drop a fresh nuke in its place. So all that brood comb we want to keep busy, we want to keep the wax moth out of it. So what we're doing is we kind of employ a bit of a strategy just for that kind of situation. These are a bunch of nukes we made up in single boxes because, well, we ran out of nuke boxes to make them. We had all this extra strength, so we just kept filling boxes with bees, dropping queen cells and making up new units. So as you can see, this is a nuke we made up. 3 frames in the center there. Then we filled the rest of the box with foundation, just as a place taker. And what we're doing now is we're coming through and we're taking out all the foundation frames and dropping all these brood combs in it, so the hive can, utilize it, and just to keep those brood combs busy and away from the wax moth. As you can see, some of these hives require most of the foundation to be switched out to brood comb. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a nice little nest of 4. We'll just take a peek here. Could you hold that camera, Carrie? Actually, could you pull that frame out? That'd be easier.
Okay.
I just want to see what the nest is doing. We're not checking these brood combs, or we're not checking these brood nests. We're just, that's a neat and tidy little nest. So these are very well established little nukes, and other side, beautiful. And all we're doing is we're not trying to manage them for honey. We're just managing them to build up for next year. So a nice neat little unit like this, where we've taken out the foundation frames, unused foundation frames, dropping brood comb in, and then excluders go on, and a honey box on top just to take a bunch of surplus. So you can see this one, it only spared 2 foundation frames because they've actually gone out and they've been very busy working all that out quite nicely. So we must have made that one up a little bit stronger. And that's what we're doing. Hail duty. Carry short 1 excluder for the nukes. We use metal bound when we merge 5s and 6s together, because these plastic are too, well, you can look at it, too warpy. Can't let the queen get between the 2 units. So instead of buying more, I'm just going to put one of these. You can switch it out from one of the parent colonies here. So I thought maybe this is a good opportunity to go down into one of these colonies just to see whereabouts the apiary is at. I was in the office doing a bunch of book work and I was meaning to get out here today to take a peek at these colonies. So we'll take a peek down here, see where they're at, switch out this excluder. They're sure busy today, they're going absolutely crazy. So this fourth, we put this fourth on last week. It looks like they are working their way up. Fresh nectar up in that fourth, so that's a good sign. Got a bit of weight to it. Feels real good. This box is about half full, I'd say. Frame's nice and heavy, and they are starting to bulk up the top end of the frame here, so they are bringing nectar in. This box is nice and heavy, and there's the brood. Nice little brood pattern, so that's got some time to emerge and to backfill. And there's a lot of weight here. Switch these out. Okay, so that second box is practically full. This third box, half full, maybe a little better than that. They're working up into the fourth. So next week we're going to go around and we're going to start staging the apiary for the harvest, which will begin not next week but the following week. My facility handles 500 hives per week. That's what I can pull and extract in a week. So what we're going to be doing is going through the apiary on Monday, and the first 500 hives we're going to go through and we're going to keep them pretty tight. So we're going to give them, 3 honey supers here. If they're really going gangbusters, we're going to give them a 4th honey super. Maybe they're not performing, so maybe it might take away from a few, but we're going to keep them really tight because those first 500 are the ones that we're going to pull from first. So they're going to get fresh space and a lot of it right away. The second 500 grouping of hives with my apiary, I'm going to be a little more generous, and let's say a hive like this I'm looking at, I'll give them a for sure 4th honey box, if not a 5th. What I'm doing is I'm counting around here with the flows that are coming in, I'm counting a box a week. So for every week I delay off the harvest, I got to make sure they have an extra box. So for the majority of this apiary, majority of this bee yard, I'm going to be giving them 4 supers. So there'll be 4 supers high on top of that single. And the real heavy ones, I'm going to give them that 5th. It gets kind of confusing this time of year because when we start adding boxes to the single is the first box, then we add seconds, we add thirds, we add 4ths. But this time of year, we kind of switch our terminology a little bit. Once that queen's out on the bottom box, and we start focusing on harvest, we forget it. We don't call that single box the first one anymore. We start counting the supers, right? So before, these hives are in 4 because there's 4 boxes, but now we're switching into just counting the honey boxes. So there's 3 honey boxes here, we're adding the 4th, just to make things a little bit confusing. But that's just naturally what we do here on the honey farm. So then when we go around and the last bunch of hives, which will be 2 weeks off, we're gonna maybe be a little more generous to give them 2 boxes high. So, because there's 2 weeks from when I started pulling those hives to when we got to those hives at the back end. So they need a little more space. We have to be a little more generous just to be able to keep ahead of the inflow of nectar. These girls here were moved in last week, boxed up last week. And they need a box. These are just a little more mature. Those first round nukes, just a little more advanced. So they're good. That's showing these guys. So these nukes are going to be placed on the back side of the flow. So we're looking at, they're not going to be in the first grouping or the second. They're going to be placed in the third grouping, which we pull from. So if they're showing bees and honey up in that second box there now, in that first honey super, they're showing bees and honey stored in there. We're going to need 1, 2, maybe 3 boxes on some of these nukes. By the time we get to them, they'll be filled right up. How exciting. So maybe we're going to the middle and end of next week where we can come around and just assess these girls. Anybody is showing brilliance up on top, we'll be promoting that. One of my favorite times is coming home from the lake and just going out poking into the apiary to see where things are at and just finding hives that are filling up with honey. Just look at that. It still amazes me. I just can't figure how it's possible for these bees to do so much work. That's 3 boxes and they're filling right to the top. Filling right full of honey. These guys are going to be needing space. I'm not going to be able to get to them on the first round, so these guys will automatically get 4th honey supers. Some of these are going to get 5. It's a beautiful little flow going on right now. Carrie told me this morning that she likes when I come back from the lake too, because I don't hate bees anymore. So kind of a little bit of a reprieve, a little bit of a refresh. Should get me till middle of August, I think. Right now would be about the time I would see swarms in the trees, in the shrubs. I'd see evidence of swarms in front of the colonies here. But I'm not seeing any of that. I'm looking at the entrances and all my girls are busy. I'm looking up to the top box. Ooh. And there's bees working right to the top, storing nectar. Typically when you see swarming hives, the girls stop working at the bottom because the queen quits laying, so all those young bees have nothing to do anymore. So they hang out in the front. And they pretty much quit work up on the top because they start redirecting their focus from hoarding to swarming. So what you want to see is busy fronts. Like bearding doesn't necessarily mean swarming. Bearding a lot of the time just means that they're so bloody hot. But busy fronts. Lots of fanning. You see the nectar being dried down there. Lots of pollen coming in. Lots of activity. My boys are coming in and out. And look at that. That's the 3rd honey box up on top. And they are fattening that 3rd box out. So they are busy, busy, busy. Just an awesome sound to the yard. I just love it when a plan comes together like this. It's not to say that there won't be any swarming from now and on, but from what I'm seeing, from all our work that we've done in the spring, and the way we've set up these colonies, I think it looks like we hit the mark.